my pre-recordings from last year, and I'll just upload that. My apologies, that really slipped my mind. We started talking at the start of the session and I completely forgot to record the session. Anybody at this stage, anything that you want to add? Any questions that you might have? Anything you want to share? You're good? Johnny, you went for your vaccinations yesterday. Anybody else? Yes, Stephanie, you've got a question?
No, sorry, sir, I don't have questions.
You just raise your hand and say, I'm here. Don't forget about me. Okay, that's good. Or did you raise your hand to say you got vaccinated? Who's gone for the vax?
No, I haven't gone yet. I'm only going next week.
Anybody scared of injections in general?
Me.
Jessica?
I don't snort needles, sir.
Listen, I tell you what, from own personal experience of receiving the vaccination, and when I was in hospital in January with my knee operations, you get totally immune to injections, because I mean they inject almost anything from food to whatever into you. And when I went for my vaccination, I have to admit, I was chatting to the nurse, and she ended up with a frown on her face, and I was like, what did I do something wrong about? She said, so, you're done. I said, okay, right, thanks for being polite, but seriously, have you joked me? And then I saw, okay, right, then boom, she's done it. So it's nothing to worry about. It's actually a breeze. But yeah, I know that.
My fear built up from going for so many operations and dealing with so many needles around doctors. I never had a fear, now I do.
You know what? I sometimes, Jessica, I sometimes think nurses are more equipped to deal with this than some of our doctors. And who really does that? It's usually the nurses. But again, you get good ones, you get bad ones. I've had some bad experience in the past as well. I tend to forget it. Blood donation is something totally different. That the size of the needle is sticking to there is a bit it's a bit different. But again, once you're used to it, it's fine, like anything else. Right. Anybody recently had any good experience regarding top class service that they completely blown them? Because we know we've become so used to average or mediocre service being offered, and we've accepted it. Oh, you know what? It's Africa. Oh, what? This is the 21st century, so people are not that. No, we're not that we're entitled to good service, but I cannot understand where businesses are complaining about the business who are not growing and is not thriving, but then they offer poor service. Anybody had any good service experiences recently where they just thought, wow, this is not what I expected, and I got way more than I expected?
So I actually have a crazy one.
Yeah.
So my boyfriend had his birthday, and then I wanted to buy him, it's like a tie set with a tie and I don't know what you call it, but like a pin for your blazer.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I think something else also, but it was like a set from Tread and Miller, but they were quite expensive, but they had a massive sale at the perfect time, and that whole set was just 150 Rand, which usually like 700 Rand. And when I wanted to buy it, it was sold out, but there was still one left in Johannesburg.
Right.
So I called the Tiger Valley branch, and they said, no, sorry, they can't help me, like they're out of stock. Then I called the Waterfront branch, and they said they're also out of stock, but the Johannesburg people have one.
Yeah.
And then I spent 3 days with them on the phone and emailing constantly, just for them to courier it back to me in Tiger Valley so that I can pay for it just for 150 Rand. And it was on sale.
It's
And I
amazing.
think that was pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, the cost of just getting it down would probably be way more than the 150. So the chance of them making anything on that deal is probably very, very remote, or close to zero. And for them to going through that trouble, I mean, and based on that experience that you've had, they'll be a first choice stop for you next time. Although you know they're expensive, but they'll be on your radar because of what the experience have been.
Yes, definitely. One day when I can afford it, I'll go shop there.
One day when we all grown up and people, yes, it's great to hear that there are still businesses who realize that even those things that even where they lost money on a sale like this, probably they're still prepared to do it because they know in the long run, Larissa is going to spend, and she's admitted to that now, probably 3, 4, 5 times that over the next 10 years, when she's in a position to do so. And that's important. We sometimes tend to forget, and we as salespeople, because of the label that has been put on sales, and salespeople specifically, that they are just chasing the money, they're chasing the commission, they're chasing the sale, and they're forgetting about what the customer really wants, what the customer really needs, and very much part of the modern salesperson's makeup is to have a sort of a consultancy service that they offer. They are offering you solutions to problems. This is a clear example of how they realize that, you know what, it's the last product. One of the staff members could probably have bought it for that sales price because it's the last one in stock, and nobody would have known. But they honored the promotion that they ran, and they made the customer feel important. They made the customer and they satisfied the customer's need, because I think Larissa was probably panicking towards closer to the birthday that the ideal present is not going to be there. But it again emphasizes your versatility as a salesperson. And we started with prospecting. You'll have to find that customer. You have to identify their needs. You have to know about their product. You need to know about your competitors. You need to know about the organization that you represent. It's not just about selling, but what makes a sale especially successful is if you can, if a customer comes back to you, and I think there's, while I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of an example in a movie. You've probably seen Employee of the Month. The Employee of the Month, there's a situation where in an attempt to become the Employee of the Month, people were prepared to do almost anything. But there's a scene in the movie where a customer is satisfied with the service that they've received, and they go up to management and they say, I'll be back and I'll be shopping for this company, from this business, for as long as I live, because of, and she pointed out to a specific individual. And I think that's where we need to, in sales, it's sometimes more gratifying if you actually have a customer that comes back and say, you know what, sir, I'm buying again from you, and you probably forgotten about the guy. You probably sold something to him a year ago or months ago or whatever, and comes back and says, I'm back here because of the service I received the previous time from you, sir. That's the kind of thing that nobody could put into any promotion or any 13th check or any remuneration. It's why salespeople often do the job. Yes, the money is important because, but I think the money will not be a problem if you continue servicing your customers in this fashion, because then they will return. It will make your job easier. You don't have to go and find as many new ones. Although prospecting never stops. We'll deal with it. Let me grab my, I almost said checkbook. Let me grab my textbook. I think it's chapter 15. Chapter 15. No, it's chapter 10. Relationship selling. Later on in this module, we'll deal with relationships specifically, key account management. You see at the bottom of the screen that's this whole topic, this whole slide just in front of you is going to be covered extensively in 2 specific chapters, because it is so important to keep that key account, that key customer, that special customer that provides your customers, that provides you with 80% of your turnover, to keep them happy, and how to grow and nourish that specific relationship that you have with that particular customer, and also to not neglect the others. But relationship management in greater detail in later chapters. I just thought it's important that at this point we also just, because it's one of the key responsibilities of a salesperson, that we just briefly touch on it, because how smooth the sales process is executed, how efficient your delivery is, like the example that Larissa shared with us. Everything forms part of managing the relationship with that customer. Service is one component of ensuring that there's a good relationship with the customer. Key account management is, as I said, a subject almost in itself. Key account managers have the ability to manage not just one relationship. So it's basically given the responsibility to deal with a very important customer, but not just with the customer, but with everybody in that customer's DMU. And the DMU is specifically referred to your decision-making unit. There are more than one individual who makes a decision, and they all form part of that DMU, that decision-making unit. You have to satisfy and have good relationships with everybody that form part of that little unit that's going to make a decision. This specifically refers to industrial selling. One of your responsibilities would also be to ensure that you implement the strategies of the business and the policies. You are not going to be involved in sales strategies. That should be done on a managerial level, but it's important that you are trained and properly informed on what these strategies are, because it will put you in a position where you can sort of protect or defend the company's positioning strategy. Let's take an example. If there's a very expensive item, that high quality item but expensive, and all of a sudden there's a discount offered on that product, what's your first reaction as a customer? Anybody? Very expensive but high quality product, all of a sudden it's offered at a, let's say, a ridiculous 40% discount. What's your immediate reaction?
Impulsive buying.
Not action, reaction. Of course you will stock up on it. My first question, Jessica, would be, what's wrong? Is this business closing down? What's wrong with this product? Furthermore,
True, very true.
if they are offering us a 40% discount, and they're probably still making a profit, how much have they overcharged us over all the years? So it's not a very good approach to offer discounts on high quality, high price products. just in an attempt to get you. Usually, the company would come out with a declaration to say, we are closing down, and this is a closing down sale. Now, initially, those kind of things were used as a marketing strategy to get people to buy because they think the company is going to close down, and then eventually it's actually not. But that's a subject in itself. It's not a good approach. It's not a good policy to try and discount high quality products because the customer is well informed or better informed than they have been previously, and they're going to ask questions. Why? And that's the question you don't want them to ask. I would much rather, and it is suggested to much rather offer customers different forms of discount. Instead of discounting the high quality product and running the risk of tarnishing the reputation of that particular product, rather offer additional discounts. So, unfortunately, this is one of our flagship products. I mean, you can understand that I cannot discount this for you because it's such a high quality. But you know what? Because you're going to buy that, I'm going to throw in this extra. So you actually discount supporting products for that matter. Okay, some of you have probably experienced that as well, where they all of a sudden offer you this, and you think, oh, geez, I don't really need these, but it definitely persuades you to engage in a transaction if that happens. But also, you as a customer feel better because they were not prepared to give away a high quality product. You will, as a customer, it's built in, you will always try and get the best price. But you sometimes even feel offended if a high quality product is discounted because, yeah, it doesn't ring, it doesn't go well down in most people's books. Often, I think another option would be to, especially if you're doing industrial selling, to offer the business. So, sorry, you know what? We cannot discount this product for you. It's our profit margins is very low on this product already, but it's such a high quality and such a durable product. I can completely understand that you are trying to negotiate a better price on this. But you know what? Unfortunately, I cannot do that. But you know what I will do? I will offer you the exclusivity to maybe sell this product for us, or let me come to your business and assist you with the promotion of it. People, there's many ways in which you can actually discount and still end up in a win-win situation. But one of the important things not to do is to try and or to discount a high quality product. There are a few steps in the selling process. I think there's in the textbook. I'm not sure if there's a diagram that shows you the selling process. I'll quickly page through the textbook. I don't think there is, but it's also not relevant. But like anything else, there is a process that you go through when you are selling. I know that there's a module on a first year course where they specifically deal with the steps in the selling cycle. There are 10 steps starting with prospecting, but the selling process itself, after you have identified the prospect and you have qualified that prospect as a potential customer, because there's a difference between the two. Not everybody that's a prospect is going to be a potential customer. So you qualify those prospects so they can become potential customers, or what we call leads in the sales industry. Would they be able to afford it? That's one of the qualifying criteria. And then you'll be preparing a proper presentation to them, and you'll build in some flexibility, because you do not you do want to modify and change and adapt your presentation according to the specific needs of a customer. We all probably have at some point in our lives heard the expression, if you plan to fail, or if you fail to plan, you obviously are planning to fail. It's not going to work. So basically plan. It is better to, and you are required as a salesperson to think on your feet, but you can still, and you are still required to do that, but you are just better off if you are slightly more prepared. You can think better on your feet if you are better prepared. When we sell to customers, we can find ourselves as salespeople in two situations. Maybe you cannot, and that's where we refer to pure selling. Maybe you cannot engage into any negotiation. You don't have the authority to do that. That's very tough, and it's usually your more experienced salespeople that we send into situations like that to do the hard selling, so to speak, or pure selling also, because there's no room for negotiation here. You've got to be tough. You've got to be, you've got to have a thick skin, because regardless of the objections that the customer throws at you, or the arguments, or the attempts to negotiate, you know that you cannot budge. And it's really your experienced salespeople that will be able to do that, because they usually not just have the experience, they also have the authority to make that decision. But usually you find yourself in a challenging situation where you don't have the authority to do that, and that becomes very difficult. Best solution to a scenario like that is to actually then have a customer, to say to the customer that you will get somebody in who has the authority to maybe make such a decision. Negotiations is part of the selling process. People, as I said earlier on, will always try and get the best price. They will always engage in some form of negotiation. It could be on the price, but it could also be on how quickly can you get the product to me. What extras can I is possible to add? Payment terms is very often a very important aspect as part of the negotiation, but it is and it remains an important aspect of the selling process, that you understand what your boundaries are and that you equip yourself with the knowledge to be able to operate within those boundaries. You cannot commit yourself if you know, if you are aware of what the boundaries of negotiation will allow you to do, and it very often comes with your position of authority in a business. Right. Let's look at 5 factors that can improve your chances of being successful in sales. And I think that's something that all of us would like to know. Not that all of us are going to necessarily end up in sales, but it is important to know that if you do certain specific things, that you'll improve your chances of actually being successful. One of them is product knowledge. I mean, it goes without saying. Importantly, and we often refer to in the industry as FAB, F-A-B, features, benefits, and features, advantages, and benefits. FAB. That's what that acronym represents. And that means that although it's as important as it is for any salesperson to know the product and the features of the product that they are selling, it's equally important that you can link the benefit that the customer will experience from the from the product to the actual feature. If the customer are just given a list of features, but they don't see the benefit of buying the product because it's not linked to that feature. So, okay, right, that's a great feature. Try and sell a cell phone to me. It's got 3 cameras. You know what? I don't even use one of the cameras. I've never used if I want a camera, I'll buy a camera. So if you cannot link that specific feature to the benefit that it will offer you, the fact that the benefit of this particular feature, the fact that you have 3 cameras, is that you do not need to buy another camera. It's all, look at the picture quality, for instance. You have it with you all the time. If you have to buy a camera, then you'll have a phone and a camera kind of thing. So it's linking the feature to the actual benefit that the customer will experience. There are some examples in the illustration at the bottom. Let's just pick anyone. This is basically industrial selling factory equipment. 3 down, high reach on a forklift truck. Well, that's the feature that the product offers you. What's the benefit for the customer? Well, they've got a greater use of your warehouse space, because you can park your truck closer to the delivery point because the reach of the particular forklift is so much higher. These benefit, feature. What does the customer want? The benefit. Do they care about the feature? Only if they can see the benefit for them. You don't have to spy on your competitors, but it is important. Well, no, you shouldn't spy on your competitors, but it is important to know what they are offering, what the benefits are that their products are offering. Where do you have a competitive advantage, and where are their products probably better than yours? The reason for that is it prepares you better to react to objections that a potential customer can pose. And that is, okay, right, I can see the benefits of, and it's a great product that you have, but what about company A, B, and C? They offer something similar to you, but what makes your product and what makes your company different? Now, that is a loaded question, because you are now almost requested by the customer to compare your competitor's product with your product. You're not going to do that. You're never going to win that fight. You are just going to highlight again the features and the benefits that your product offers the customer, or can offer the customer, and let the customer go out and have the same conversation with your competitor. Do not compare in a sales negotiation your products with another company. It's a minefield. You don't want to enter there. How do you plan for your sales presentation? Be flexible. Simple as that. Be flexible. Know enough about your competitors, about your customers and their specific needs and problems, about what you are selling, the features and the benefits and the advantages of the product that you are selling, and you will be in the best position to prepare the best possible sales presentation. Plan your sales presentation, have different scenarios, prepare for potential objections that the customer can have, prepare answers for those objections, and rehearse, practice them. That's part of preparation. It doesn't mean that you are still have to be very, very sharp and think on your feet, but if you have a sort of a prepared, not prepared to the sense that you know what to expect, not necessarily to the T, because then it also comes across as a organized, prepared, structured reply. Customers don't want that either. So again, you can see that this comes with a lot of experience. The more experienced you become, the more flexible you become in your approaches, and it just builds the confidence and the trust between you and the customer. Sales objectives, it's quite simple. Some people are, as I said, are motivated by reaching specific targets and exceeding specific targets. Obviously, in sales, your company will set certain targets and objectives for you, which you'll have to achieve. But the objectives that you have to set as a salesperson for yourself is not necessarily how are you going to reach those objectives, those sales targets. You have to make 20 sales and sell 20 new vehicles in this month. How are you going to do that? Now, the objective or the target that has been set by your company is out there. The number is 20. How are you going to do that? You're going to do that, obviously, by applying the SMART principle. Is 20 realistic? How many people do you have to see to get the required appointments to be able to make the 20 sales? But more importantly, what do you want from the customer rather than what you want to do? You know what you have to do. You have to sell 20 cars. What do you want the customer to do? Because it's about relationship forming to ensure that the customer returns. Or maybe not buy now, but maybe buy in a year's time. Because you might be 3 or 4 units short on your sales target for this month, but you'll make that up 6 months, 1 year from now by exceeding a target because of the service that you provided the customer, the fact that you have planned your properly and that you've set realistic goals for yourself. If you are in industrial sales, selling business products that businesses buy on a regular basis, and you want to make sure that the customer is very informed before they make a decision, allow the customer to visit your business, take them on a tour, show them how it's done, and then let them do the same with their competitors and compare the competitors. Let them, the customer, compare the products of the competitors with yours. The objectives that you have to achieve in sales are influenced by the sales cycle. And the sales cycle that refers to the time that it takes from the first time that you've actually made contact with a customer to the point where the customer have made a decision and actually places the order. Your objective would obviously be to reduce that cycle to the smallest possible time. It's going to be different for every customer, and it's going to depend on a few things. How desperately does the customer need that product at that point? If they need it immediately, if they need it like yesterday, you've got some bargaining power. The chances that your sales cycle is going to be shorter is so much greater in a situation like that. If the customer has a bit of buying power because there's alternatives that's available to them, if they don't buy from you, they can go somewhere else because there's 1 or 2 other options that they can also consider. The chances that if they eventually return and place an order with you is that sales cycle is going to be a longer one. The higher the risk for the customer in a transaction, the buyer, the higher the risk for the buyer is, the longer they will take also to make a decision. Therefore, your sales cycle in a situation like that would be much longer too. Preparing for a negotiation. We all know that all customers are going to try their luck. Is this the best price you can offer me? Often a question that is asked. Again, like I've said just now, it depends on the pressure under which the different parties are. The bargaining power lays with you if the customer needs the product as right now or very, very urgently. The bargaining power lies with the buyer if they have many options to consider, or more than you as an option to consider to buy from. How many items you're going to purchase will also be part of the negotiation. Often, if company says, you know what, I know that your unit price for this item is say 2,000 Rand. What's the best deal you can give me if I buy 5,000 of these items, or whatever number? So the quantity, the greater the quantity, the more leverage you or the buyer offers you to, or the buyer has, and it opens obviously the door for a successful negotiation. Right. We're almost there, and then you can enjoy the rest of the afternoon. There are two types of objectives. There's a must-have objective, and then there's a would-like objective. The must-have objective is you as the seller know that you cannot, this is the price, you must buy, you must have, you cannot trade below this price. That is what you are prepared to sell the product for. That's also referred to as the negotiating breaking point. If you know that there's no way, you've actually come down in your price, you know that this negotiation breaking point, this is the must-have price. You are going to sacrifice your own salary, or part of your own salary, part of your own commission if you go beyond this point. That's a must-have objective. A would-like objective is where you're basically, an example, for instance, you're selling a house and you're selling it for, let's say, 2 million, because you have done a bit of research and you recently property in the same area, similar features, number of rooms and property size, whatever, as sold around about that price. But now you do your calculations and you figure, okay, right, hang on, I can actually, if I rent this place, I can actually make a bit more, because it still covers the bond I'm paying on the house, and it actually gives me a bit of extra. Then immediately, if that happens, your must-have, your would like to have kind of objective sort of increases, because there's extra information that has been added to the equation. We refer to it as the banter, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay, you've negotiated with your estate agent that you'll sell the house for 2 million, but now you realize, hang on, I can actually get a bit more. Okay, so that would be the difference between a must-have and a would-like to have objective. There will always be concessions. The one thing that you have to remember is you don't concede anything, you don't give away anything that is of value to the buyer. Let's reflect on that. If it's important to the buyer, they will pay the price. You don't bring the price down. You don't sacrifice anything. You don't give anything away. If it is a valuable item or valuable aspect of the transaction for the buyer, because then you have the bargaining power as the seller. There are, and I've listed a few of these aspects that can form part of a concession. You can concede on maybe delivering it in a shorter time. You can concede on the product itself, maybe offer somebody more products, the price, their payment arrangement. Usually you do 90 days, but you can extend it to maybe 120 days for them. So all of these things, all of these aspects become potential concession, potential items for concession. that you can use in your bargaining process. Right. What does proposal analysis refer to? Proposal analysis is what the buyer is proposing as an alternative to what you're offering as a seller. That is any specific demand that the customer, the buyer, is offering you to try and make a deal. It's part of the whole negotiation process, and that is what they are offering and what they are putting on the table. Usually, the experienced and the clever salesperson will realize that when a customer makes a specific demand or a proposal like this, they are ready to make a sale. They want the product. Only difference is they want to get the best possible price, and they want the greatest number of items, quantity of items. So when somebody or when the buyer is offering you or proposing to you certain specific demands, it's an indication that they are ready to make a transaction or engage in transaction. That's a closing signal. We use the salesperson saying, right, let's be clever. I can mess it up now, but actually what the customer is telling me is that they want the product. They just want to know how quickly can I deliver it, what different colors can I get it in, what's the quantity that you have available in stock, what's the best price. At the end of this chapter, for you at home, at some point in your preparation for revision, identify those, and that's the diagram right at the start of the chapter. Identify those key responsibilities of a salesperson and explain each of them. Write it down for yourself as notes, and then also identify factors that can improve your chances of being successful in sales. That's the ones that we've done in the second or the latter part of this chapter. I'll leave you with Malcolm X, and we all know, or most of you know, who Malcolm X is. And strangely, people, none of it is COVID related, or some of them might be. I just don't know. I don't have enough information. But strangely enough, we've lost a lot of good musicians over the last number of months. And yeah, your parents would know them. You've probably heard of them, but you don't really listen to their music, or you've never, or maybe you have heard the music before. But the songwriter for UB40, I think, passed away earlier this week. I think he was in his 60s. And then the drummer to the Rolling Stones. And if probably people ask you about the Rolling Stones, your parents will definitely know who the Rolling Stones are. Mick Jagger is the name that pops up because he was the lead singer, but their drummer also passed away. So, as I said, it's nothing necessarily COVID related, because the Rolling Stones were popular in the 60s, so they would probably be in the 80s, and that's just basically nature taking its course. Malcolm X said, you have to prepare for tomorrow. Education is the passport to the future. Tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. You've heard it before, and again, coming from being quoted by somebody like Malcolm X is something that makes it more powerful. But at the end of the day, it is important, and I think in this whole chapter, to summarize the responsibilities that you have as a potential salesperson, it comes down to educating yourself so you get the knowledge that's necessary for you to plan better. And if you plan, you will have an increased chance of success. That's the crucial part of success, not just in sales, in business and in academics and in life in general. Planning, because then you are better prepared. If you're better prepared, you are better prepared to think on your feet if something all of a sudden doesn't work out the way that you intended it. Anybody? Any questions at this point?
No,
Are we all
sir.
good? Jessica's good. Jessica's good, and everybody else is good. I'm assuming, unless everybody says they are good. Thanks, Larissa. Johanni is also good. Any side effects from yesterday's vaccination, Johanni?
So my arm just